Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Gems, the podcast where you get all the tools you need for your epic glow up. Relax, whip up a delicious treat, and let's talk. I am so happy to finally announce that Gems is now a video podcast. Now, not only can you enjoy your glow up guide in audio format, but you can enjoy it in video too. Woo! I am still working on putting up the video platforms like on YouTube or TikTok, but until then, you can still enjoy the podcast. So let's get to the episode. We are now deep into the recesses of the fall season, and with this season comes colorful fall fashion fits, wacky and warm holidays, the beautiful autumn foliage, and every latte lover's favorite, the pumpkin spice latte. Well, not my favorite though, but I digress. Anyway, just as there are many good things with this season, it also brings with it its fair share of challenges. And as the year draws close, so does that familiar feeling of loneliness and unhappiness. So, for the next few episodes, we are going to talk about the things that may be making you unhappy. That way, you can be equipped to fight against the things preventing you from your glow up. So, without further ado, let's begin this episode. I would first like to share with you this song that I found a few months ago by Rachel Gray, Grae. It's called How to Be Alone. If you want, you can look up and listen to the song later, but for now, I want to read to you the lyrics of the chorus. For those of you following along in the video podcast, I will put them up on screen. When I'm all alone, I don't feel lonely. Finally get the time to try to get to know me. Used to be a stranger to myself. Now I'm the only one that knows me well. Fake friends on weekends, killing me slowly, getting back the time and love that I owe me. Finally getting good at letting go, mastering the art of how to be alone. Isn't that so beautiful? I think this song is such a beautiful depiction of a person who has freed themselves from modern loneliness. And it is true that just because you are alone doesn't mean you're lonely. And I didn't realize this too until recently. So today, this is the first reason why you may be unhappy. You don't know how to be alone. This is our agenda for today. First, we're going to talk about the difference between being alone and being lonely. Then we are going to dive deep into the causes of modern loneliness. After that, I will tell you some ways you can combat these causes of loneliness. So, what is the difference between being alone and being lonely? I want to share with you some definitions to make things clear. If you're following along in the video podcast, they will be on screen now. Being alone means having no one else present, just you. Now, you can be sad being alone, but you can also be happy. Now, being lonely is that negative feeling you get from feeling isolated from others. It's that feeling of everyone else versus you. I want to tell you some examples from my life that made me feel isolated and lonely. In the United States, it is natural to get your driver's license at the age of 16, and this driver's license symbolizes our freedom. Because of my visual disability, I am not able to get my driver's license. I am not able to drive. So watching more and more of my friends going places, driving to and from school, made me feel very isolated. I was thinking to myself, why can they do it and I can't? That's so unfair. fair. It would especially be embarrassing when I get invited to something and I would have to ask my dad to drive me to that place. I have one more example for you, and this was happening throughout my early to mid teens. My parents used to do marriage counseling as part of their job, and I, their daughter, had to babysit the children of their clients. So, in these meetings, I would hear couples talking about their problems with each other, how their partner doesn't understand them, yet they are supposedly the perfect picture of society's standards for today. They are married, they have a house together, they have children and pets together, they have everything together. But it would be so sad to see these people miserable because they feel isolated from their partner because they just don't understand each other. And so these people would turn to things like substances. They would get addicted to things. They would get into affairs. They would do anything to get their mind off of their loneliness. And you could see that these people are, well, a lot of people are together, but they're not actually together. My point is, we are unhappy not because we are alone, but because we feel more isolated than ever before. Now, this brings us to the question, why are we lonely? Why do we feel isolated? Well, I have 3 reasons for you. The first one is because we spend way too much time on low quality ties. I will explain this to you in a minute, but for now, the second thing is that we are collectively growing more self-centered. And the third reason is because we voluntarily isolate ourselves. Now, what are low quality ties? These are your friends with the big quotation marks. These are those people that you comment back and forth with on social media. They are your F buddies, your one night stands. What I'm about to share with you is information that I got from the book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Heidt. It is a recent New York Times bestseller. Initially, it is a parenting book, but I am telling you right now, there are a lot of things we can learn from this book, even though we don't have children. And this especially applies to us millennials and Gen Z. What Jonathan Heidt is saying here is that now we maintain and build our relationships for the most part online. This online environment means that these relationships have a low bar entry, low bar exit. So for a community, it is easy for you to just go in and go out. So when you don't like someone or something, you can easily delete them. You can easily ghost them, block them, report them. But this is different to how it was before, where mainly our relationships are in real life, are in IRL situations. And because of that, they have a high bar entry, high bar exit. We cannot easily escape from these communities or these relationships. And therefore, to cope with our environment, we would have to do our best to harmonize and get along with these people. And therefore, we would know better how to connect with other people. More on the anxious generation later, but for now, my point is that we spend so much time online commenting, sharing, reacting to things instead of getting quality interactions in real life. We prefer to send messages to our friends instead of talking to them face to face. And it doesn't even take that much to express your emotions because we have things like emojis. I myself am guilty of overusing emojis and acronyms like I am. If you ask anybody who talks to me frequently, they will tell you that I am a super user of the acronym LMAO and a super user of the laugh crying face. Sometimes I don't even mean to really LMAO, but I'm saying it because I'm just chuckling like, that's funny. And it's so shallow. It's so superficial. It strips away all of the quality of that human interaction that it makes it very inhuman, which further strengthens that feeling of isolation. My next point is we are collectively growing more self-centered. Back to the anxious generation, Jonathan Haidt talks about how between the years of 2010 to 2015, there was the development of the iPhone 4. And with it comes the selfie camera. Around the same time was also the boom of social media platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook. And what researchers push as a simple correlation, it's just a correlation that the more people spend time on social media, their mental health just decline. It just happened to be that way. But now it is proof, it is actual fact that the more that people spend time online, the more their mental health declines. It is now a fact. It is the main cause of mental health decline. That is because this environment breeds things like FOMO. It also makes people do this whole keeping up with the Kardashians or keeping up with the Joneses, as they say before. It's like anything you can do, I can do better. It makes it so easy to compare and compete. I want to share with you a story that happened recently. I was scrolling through Facebook and saw one of my schoolmates from middle school to high school. She recently got married. She was actually one of the mean girls in my school. And when I saw her wedding pictures, I was thinking to myself, well, look at her. She just got married. How did she even do that with that personality of hers? And I'm still single. Why? And then I thought to myself, well, this is exactly why. It's because you are so bitter and so critical of others. And it is not healthy. Maybe you should fix that. We are the selfie generation for a reason. And not only are we the selfie generation, we are also the DIY generation. I totally agree with Dr. Alok, however you say his name, Alok Kamogia. I am so sorry if I butchered that. But he is from the YouTube channel HealthyGamerGG. And he says this, I'll put it up on screen. We're a society that is increasingly becoming more dependent on independence. We can't rely on other groups of people. We have learned how to stop relying on other people, and this makes it difficult to connect with each other. We are taking it upon ourselves to fix this problem of loneliness when it's not just a you problem. Humans are built to commune. If you want to hear more about this from Dr. Alok, I will link his video down on the show notes. But for now, let's move on. The next thing that is causing our self-centeredness is that our life is algorithm based. Every day we are inundated with marketing and content tailored to you. How is this content important to me? How will this product fix my life? How is this going to benefit my life? This strengthens our self-centered mindset, and this hyper-focusedness on ourselves makes us lose touch of everything else around us. And now we are more isolated from each other. And speaking of isolation, let's move on to the third cause for loneliness. And that is because we voluntarily isolate ourselves. I have a question for you. How many IRL invitations for meetups and gatherings have you turned down in the last 2 years? I will tell you that I have turned down a lot. And for those of you who are saying, well, I can't really go anywhere because I rarely get invited to those things anyway. Well, that in itself is a problem because the rest of the people in your circle is also comfortable being in their homes, which I understand. It takes time to go from one place to another. It takes energy to meet people. It takes energy to pick out an outfit, to do all of these things. There is little perceived incentive to meeting people, but we are so used to convenience rather than quality. And that is a problem because we need quality time with other people as much as we need quality time with ourselves. And let's face it, we can't really function properly if we're depressed. So we might as well go through the hassle and do it for our mental health. Okay, so now that we know the causes for loneliness, what are some ways we can do to combat these causes? The first thing is to find and invest your time in a fulfilling hobby rather than wasting it on social media or doom scrolling. There are so many things you could benefit from a hobby, and that is, for example, finding people to connect with, creating things that'll build up your life. So many things. One more thing is to stop wasting your time on low quality ties. Low quality ties are like junk food. They are so good at that moment, but they are so detrimental to your mental health. Find and invest your time in a community that will build and lift you up during the times when you need it. Now, these two things are not the only ways to combat loneliness, but they are very effective ways to do so. So, I think we have talked enough about isolation and depression in one day. So, before I send you off, I would like to give you your questions for the week. Think about your relationships. Are there any low quality ties you maintain that drain your energy rather than enrich your life? What steps can you take to change or let go of these relationships? How often do you prioritize convenience over meaningful in-person interactions? What steps can you take this week to combat loneliness and invest in building stronger, deeper relationships? Hey, that is it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode of Gems, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, rate, comment, whatever it is that you do to support this podcast in your platform of preference. And I will see you next week. But remember, until then, glow up and don't forget to be a better you. See ya.